Welcome to Wear Your Cape to Work, a podcast hosted by Project Insight. We believe that project and program managers are the real superheroes of every organization. We want you to hear their stories so you can be inspired to wear your own cape to work. Our guest on today's podcast is Amy Altomare. She is a project manager at the City of Hope here in Orange County. She has her PMP and her doctorate of education. She teaches at USC, and at the City of Hope, she's a program director for clinical quality, strategy, and optimization. The reason we wanted to have her as a guest on the podcast is that she started what's called the Project Support Center at the City of Hope, where anyone from the organization can come to get project help on the meaningful work they're doing across the organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here today for the Wear Your Cape to Work podcast.
Yeah, we're excited too. We know that you wear your cape to work every day, and I can attest to this having met you a few months ago at the PMIOC chapter out here in Orange County, California. You guys had your professional development day, and just for our audience, Amy was a speaker, a session speaker at the professional development day, and I got to attend her session, and I was just amazed at what Amy is doing at her workplace right now. I want to give a little background. I'm going to maybe surprise some people that you have your Doctor of Education degree. That is pretty impressive. You're an adjunct professor at USC, which is very cool. But you're also a project manager, and you have your PMP and your Lean Six Sigma certificate, all these different accolades that you have in your background, and you found yourself now at the City of Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about the City of Hope and what they do there and what kind of organization that is?
Of course. City of Hope is among America's largest and most advanced institutions for cancer research and treatment. With a more than 110-year legacy of serving humanity, we are an independent academic institution fueled by a trailblazing spirit and enduring community support. Our national network is noted for groundbreaking discoveries, world-renowned cancer specialists, and being ranked among the nation's top cancer centers by U.S. News and World Report. We are relentlessly optimistic in pursuing our biggest goal, making hope a reality for all touched by cancer and related serious diseases.
That's incredible. And the work that you guys do nationwide is amazing. You can imagine, audience, the projects and the efforts and the mission-driven work that Amy and all these teams are doing all over the country. And Amy, you work there, like we said, as a project manager. What area are you in at the City of Hope? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different project managers there.
We have a lot of different project managers in different areas. I'm in the nursing team. It's nursing and patient care services. And I started at City of Hope really in a different department. I came in, it was a time in my life where I really wanted to make a leap in my career. And City of Hope was one of those kind of goal organizations because they really align with my values. And so I came in and I was an improvement facilitator, and one of my colleagues was supposed to facilitate a rapid process improvement for a chief nursing officer. They became unexpectedly ill, and I was asked to step in. So I did. And afterwards, the chief nursing officer at the time pulled me aside and said, "What is it you really like to do? Because I see you on the day-to-day, but this was like a different version of yourself." And I said, "I really like to do what I did with your project. I want to bring people together to make improvements, do implementations, make change happen to help both staff and patients, because I'm non-clinical, so I don't directly touch patients, but I want to help the staff who supports our patients and their families every day." And luckily, she had a space for me within her team, and she asked me to join as an improvement manager. And then over the years, I've evolved my role into what I'm doing now with a small but mighty team where we focus on project management and process improvement.
Have you always been into process improvement?
I have. So I have been a project manager for about 20 years, and I have been in process improvement for 12 years. And it was a calling that brought kind of both my passions together. And being able to do this in healthcare is completely different, because it is, I tell my folks that I have organizational projects and I have heart projects. And in healthcare, they
Hmm.
kind of merge together.
That's so nice that you get to, work for an organization where you share values and you get to contribute at such a high level. How, when your manager at the time kind of sought you out to say, hey, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? How do you feel when that happens? Like, are kind of like the
Mm.
stars aligning and you're just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you're so excited? Or,
It
um,
was,
you know,
I had competing feelings. I was really
yeah,
excited
yeah.
Mhm.
because I had gotten the chance to work with the nursing team before on different projects. And I knew that I really connected with them. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I can help the people that I've really connected with. And they touch the patients directly. So now I feel like I had that line to that. But then I also had some strong imposter syndrome because, as I mentioned, I'm non clinical. And so I was going to go jump into a clinical department. And I felt like, oh no, I may not know what they're doing. And so I had to push past that. And I had a motto a lot when I was doing that transition of you have to fake it till you make it. And so I would just go into these meetings and I would say, okay, I'm going to figure this out. And then when I needed to, I went to people who were experts in nursing and just said, hey, can you fill in the blanks for me?
That's so very cool. We had another guest, Matt, you'll remember Renee Clayton, and she talked about that too. Like glue yourself to the subject matter expert and make great friends.
Even that whole overarching story is a really kind of common theme that I think we've had throughout different guests on the
Hmm.
podcast, where somebody has this skill set and this ability. It's recognized by somebody else who then shines that light. They feel, kind of that imposter syndrome, if you will. And then it's like, all right, well, I've got to run this marathon and I've got to make it happen. And you're not really an imposter when you're the one putting in the work and doing it, right?
I don't have to be an expert in the process or the project I'm working on.
Hmm.
I'm an expert in project management, so I can bring that expertise forward and connect it with these other experts. And then we become this powerhouse
Wow.
team because we're
Yes.
combining these skills to
Hmm.
really push out the best product we can.
I bet they knew they needed you too. I mean, that was going to be my next question was, how did you find the state of things when you got there? You arrived, there isn't a project management expert. What were things like? And I don't mean to disparage how things were going, but what was lacking maybe?
So I think the biggest piece was is that there was a lot of competing priorities,
Hmm.
especially when I came in. The leaders in nursing and the nurses are focused on day-to-day operations. They are taking care of the patients and making sure that their journey is as great as it can be and they have the support that they need. But we know that in organizations, there's other projects that are happening, changes, implementations, strategic goals, and we have to try and bring all of that together. And so a lot of times it's just, well, I don't know how to approach this or who am I supposed to connect with? And they didn't have the space to be able to dig into all of that. I have no doubt that they could have gone and learned how to do project charters or how to set up a project, but that's so much extra time. And so then I was able to come in and say, okay, you're an expert in your operational areas. I'm an expert in project management and process improvement. Let me help you. Let me take some of this off. Let me set up some of these projects. You're going to be completely involved in all of this. So let's do this together. And I just really went into it saying, I want to be your support system. Let me help you so it's not feeling like extra things all the time. And then that actually became a focus of my doctoral dissertation. I wanted to look at how do we make change stick and how do we make it easier for change to stick? Because we know it's hard for change to get traction and to be sustainable. But then think about all the other things that are happening day to day that you
Oh,
also have
yeah.
to balance.
Yeah, we really have to stop sometimes. I do on the show and just like, let's really level set with what's going on. Like you said, you've got these clinicians and nurses and teams that are busy saving lives, really
Yes.
busy, and devoting all of their heart energy to that, to healing people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, here's how you do a project charter. You should do this right. It's a
Exactly.
very different emotional energy between please be precise in your project and also please rescue this human being down the hall. And here
Right.
you came and you're like, let me take that kind of task oriented micro project off your plate so that you can bring in your expertise and I can showcase it for you and vice versa, right? They're saying, you be the expert in those projects. Let us take the clinical part off your plate. I love how you talked about how that made you guys a powerhouse team.
It really does. And it just, for me, I think, like you said, very task oriented. So I can make a list and I can say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z today. Let's go and do that. But I started to learn in this role that my tasks are not the most important. So I had to balance that and say, okay, I'm going to get these pieces ready. We're going to meet for 15 minutes. We're going to go through them and you tell me what needs to change. And then we're ready to go to our sponsor and move on to the next step.
Was that kind of a lightning bolt or trigger in what you ultimately pursued in your doctorate then, as you
It
mentioned, kind of
was.
that change management
Oh,
piece?
cool.
Yeah, that
I
makes a
love
lot of
that.
sense.
I
Yeah.
had, for as long as I can remember, I wanted to get my doctorate degree. And the stars really did align. I joined nursing a year later. My executive director joined. And I think maybe the second time we met in our 101, I mentioned a doctorate degree and she said, great, what would you want to focus on? And I told her and she said, okay, let's go get you into a program. And so I
Wow.
was able to have that support really from my boss, from our chief nursing officer and my team to say, you're really passionate about this. Let's go see what we can find to develop you personally and then also develop the organization.
That's so cool. When a leader, all you leaders out there or aspiring leaders, when you're looking out into the pools of people that you manage, are you asking those questions? How do you want to use your flair? How do you want to use your expertise? What lights you up? What makes you happy? What excites you? And how can we help you pursue that? That's really cool. So tell us now, it's called the Project Support Center. Is that right?
It is.
Okay, how did this project support center idea come to you or come to you and your leader? Or, how did that get started and what does it look like at City of Hope, just for our audience so that they all know what's happening there?
Well, the Project Support Center was really inspired by my doctoral research. So what I focused on was interviewing leaders across the organization in nursing and find out what was most challenging for them when it came to implementing and sustaining change, doing projects, working towards strategic goals. And a common theme kept coming up that they really needed targeted support. They were juggling daily patient care. They were being expected to lead projects and improvement initiatives. And it was just a lot. It was a tough balance. So from there, I went to the literature and I found different models for project management. There were project management offices, transition support services offices, and even the embedded project manager role into a team or department. But what stood out to me was in my situation, it wasn't just pick up one of these models and put it into City of Hope. It was really, how can I combine the best elements from each one of these into something that's a multi-pronged approach to project management in nursing? And that's where the Project Support Center came from. It was something that the goal was, how can I provide expertise, resources, and empower people to learn about projects so in the end, we can make projects successful? I came up with kind of the structure. I wanted it to be an area where people can access support. They had access to expertise, that we aligned with organizational infrastructure. So we weren't necessarily starting from the beginning, that we had some skill development pieces and that we focused on sustainable outcomes. And I pitched it to, at the time, my two project managers, to my boss and to the chief nursing officer. And they were like, this sounds great. In fact, it was about 2 years ago this month that
Oh,
I pitched
congrats.
this to them. And they said, this is great. What do you need to build this? And I said, well, I have my team. If I have your support, then I would like to build this model for us. And I got the green light. And so the Project Support Center at City of Hope is actually both virtual and people. So it's myself and my team. We have set up a SharePoint site that has our templates, how-to guides, and micro-learning, as well as videos of the process of how projects go from an idea into implementation. And we have set up a structure where we support anywhere from frontline projects, so frontline nurses, all the way up to chief nursing executives, with small projects, big projects, projects that touch the entire nationwide enterprise, projects that are more local. But we try to just put in the structure that says we're going to have a consistent way of doing this. And we will be here to support you. And on some projects, we will lead them. And on other projects, we're going to empower you. So we, a lot of times, will focus on building those skills. We will start a project side by side with whoever we're working with. We'll show them how to submit a request, prepare for our steering committee presentations.
Wow.
We will help them fill out a project charter. And then after we've done that through one full project, the next time we'll say, okay, you're interested in a project. Why don't you fill out the project charter? And then we'll meet and refine it so that we can then start to spread what project management is and not just have a full portfolio of projects. We do, but we also know that there are a lot of projects out there and we can only take on so many. So we had to start empowering folks to feel like they could start to do some of the stuff that we do as project managers.
I think that's spectacular. That's such a great strategy, because not only are you formalizing what the organization does through this is our portfolio, this is what we're managing, you're giving people the tools and skills to then run that themselves, right? So that way you can help oversee, but I don't need to get into the weeds on every little thing that you're doing. How many of these templates or project lifecycle documentation or any of these kind of videos, like, did you create all of these from the ground up? Did you look at the resources and pull things, or what did that look like?
We took models that we had seen from Project Management Institute that have been used within our organization and other groups, and we tailored them to what worked best for us. So we took a lot of the foundational principles and said, well, what does this mean for City of Hope Nursing? And we started to tweak them.
What are some of the cool projects that you've been able to work on?
We have really had an opportunity to support system projects across the nation. When we first started, my vision was, okay, we're going to be City of Hope Nursing in California. That's what we're going to support. But we had a great opportunity to start to work on projects with our chief nursing officers across the national system. So we are working on strategic projects, which has been great to show the benefits of the Project Support Center. So we're introducing what we do to other folks in our organization so they can see, oh, this Project Support Center is in nursing, but look at all the things that they touch. One of the cool things that has been a byproduct of the Project Support Center is we focus on nursing projects, but we tend to support projects that touch nursing. And so now folks and project managers in other departments like IT, facilities, they know if something's going to touch nursing, we better talk to somebody in the Project Support Center so that we can all stay connected. So it's been really great to have this ability to what I think of as like a little hub that we're able to really look at what we're doing and connect to all these other projects and bring as much as we can into fruition. And then we also get the benefit of supporting frontline projects where frontline nurses come to us with their ideas or things that they're curious about, and we help to bring those into reality. And that is something that we see from that idea all the way through them getting to do dissemination at conferences.
Getting back to your doctorate and kind of this whole piece, what an awesome way to get the buy-in in the change management as a whole, right? Where it's not just this idea that I throw to somebody and then they're like, yeah, we'll get to it. Maybe never, it's like, no, take it, run with it, get it done. We're here to support you. That's got to be maybe one of the more rewarding parts of like cool projects, is just
Right.
the entirety of everything as a whole,
It
right?
is. It is. Recently,
Yeah.
I was working with some of the chief nursing officers in our other states, and they said, this is really cool. What you do and the system that you have built for project management is such a help to so many people. And it's cool to see that because that's not something you really see a lot. And that's why it was important to us to make our project support center be something that is tied to the methodology, but is uniquely specific to the team we're working with, because then they're more apt to use it and embrace it and want to do, the life cycle of a project is what we call it at City of Hope. And so they're like, oh, well, we want to be part of like the very beginning. So we're all the way through to the end of the life cycle.
I think it's great, like you said, Matt, buy-in, right? We've talked to so many project managers and we've been to so many project management events where some session is always about how do you get people to buy into, doing it this way, these processes, these steps, or, people using a project management software. How do you keep them using the tool? How do you show them the value of, how do you show leadership the value that but the value is so simple here. And one of the reasons we really wanted to have you as a guest is that this is almost like, it's like the magic, chemical. It's like you found this magic piece of the puzzle that says, oh no, we want to empower people so that they want to come to us. They find that this makes project work easier. It makes it more effective. It gets them through some of the tougher corners that we have experience, navigating. It teaches them how to be better at it the next time. And organizationally, I think, in your talk, you spoke that people really take notice, right? You've said even in our time together that when everybody's noticing that it helps, then people buy in much easier. I think it's definitely got some magic to it. And I know our audience is probably like, ooh, I wonder if we could do that at my organization. Do you have some advice for people, about maybe where to start if they're thinking about, the beginnings of a project support center where they're working?
Yes, definitely. I think the first step is start by getting out there and talking with folks who are going to be the potential users of your project support center. Each organization, each department, each team is unique. So it's important to really talk to folks and say, well, what are you struggling with? What do you need help with? In your ideal world, what would a project look like from start to finish? Because then you can start to say, okay, these elements that Amy talked about with City of Hope's Project Support Center really align well, but there's some other pieces that we need to look at. So then I'm big in going to the literature, to the evidence, to see what is out there that maybe we can mix and match. And I think it's really just so important, because when you take the time to talk to the people who are going to be your potential users, they feel like, oh, you really want to know what I need. You're not just going to come in and say, this is what we're going to do. So it builds that relationship, and it starts to build that level of trust where people say, oh, I really want to come and use your project support center. And then the second piece is to start small. Don't try to build the whole thing at once. It's going to be something that is iterative and evolves over time. So pick 1, 2, 3 project management templates that you're going to say, these are going to be our standard. We're going to start here. We're going to get people using them. We're going to create those how-to guides and coach people on this is the right way to do this. And if you struggle, let me help you. And then add more in. Keep growing it. But it starts with something small. We started off with the project charter, the roadmap, and then we started to evolve into a methodology that says, here are the tools we're going to use from start to finish each time. And then we can bring in others that we need. And then, of course, it helps to have a few people who really believe in your vision. So if you're able to build those relationships, get people who are aligned with your vision, your project support center will be something that you can design your own adventure, really.
Are there any pitfalls or challenges that you face that maybe us who might want to do that can now avoid because you've already hit your face against, anything like that?
So I think the biggest challenge we faced was getting people to go through the project management process in the project support center. For so long, it had just been pick up a project, do it, that people weren't used to having that support or having a standard way to do it. And they were just used to really handling things on their own. So it wasn't easy at first to get them to come through us. We did a lot of talking about it. We talked about the project support center. We talked about the work that we did. We would drive people to our SharePoint. I was fortunate that my boss really said, let's put this into different forums. So we did manager project management training. We did some basic training for frontline staff. So we really tried to just get out there and say, hey, come check us out. Drop into our office hours. Let's talk about your projects. And we would have to really listen. And if we heard about a project happening, we would say, oh, can we help you? And people started to say, oh, when we have a project, we should go to Amy and her team. They helped us last time. And so when we first started, a lot of what we had to do was listen to see what projects people were talking about and be a little pushy and insert ourselves into that project to say, okay, let us help you. And that really kind of helped get people familiar with us. And then as always, there are a lot of opportunities out there. And so we had to really think about how do we spread ourselves across the different projects to support as many people as possible,
right.
But then know when we needed to step back and say, okay, try doing this project charter on your own. So we had to shift from doing for everyone to saying, okay, now you can try this out and let's see how that works. And of course, we were there every step of the way.
I can see how that is much less scary, right? Like you walked me through it and you led this first one and I learned a lot from you. And now I can take a stab at it, but I know you're there for support. And pretty soon I'm betting these teams are now, oh, we'll check in with you when it's something weird, but we can train our own team, subsequently how to do at least these basics. I mean, a project charter and a roadmap are really great, simple starting points. Mm-hmm. And what an asset to have that to not get off track. I mean, Matt, we've had a few webinars where we talk about have a project charter so that the scope creep isn't, and go back to the charter, tie it to the project.
Right.
There's all these reasons that actually helps your project move forward, but it's so simple and so obvious that, sometimes people just, we're all busy. We just dig right in. We got to get it done. Mm-hmm. Everybody just do what you can and we'll regroup and see how it's going. But that organization initially helps a lot.
Also, to the point earlier of subject matter experts, I'm, listen, I've got the nursing stuff down. I have that. You do the project management, right? Instead, you're slowly building that skill set for them over time where it may even be subconscious where you're like, oh, yeah, I'll fill out the form, whatever. And then you're like, oh, now I'm doing this. And now it's like, oh, wait, am I managing this entire thing
now
myself?
A project manager.
That's awesome. Right?
Secretly training PMPs.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so great.
I love it.
I mean, the story is just really good. I really love this story. It's not a story of someone coming in and saying, here's change management. You're going to change. It's actually coming in and saying, hey, I see you have a big load and a big challenge. Do you want to offload some of that on me and let's walk together? I mean, that's seemingly the miracle solution here is I'm just coming alongside you to help in the change. And that's where the success comes from. Have you seen a specific superpower of yours kind of come to the surface all these years? I mean, I'm kind of seeing a number of them as you've talked, but is there one that stands out to you that you can just kind of close your eyes and be like, yeah, it always goes like this?
I think my biggest superpower, and it's why I went to healthcare, is I tend to lead projects with my heart. And that helps me build relationships with the people that I'm working with. It helps me align with the values of my organization, and it helps me drive each of my projects. I know that there's standard work we have to do for projects, but when my heart sneaks in, it tells me, okay, let's approach this one a little different. Maybe I need to work this project a little differently because of the topic or the people we're working with. And I think my biggest superpower is that I try to lead with my heart and make sure that I'm supporting anyone that I can. I tend to be the person in the background saying, this is great. Let's keep going. Let's keep doing this. And it's why I aligned with City of Hope so well, is because one of their values is compassion. And that's what I want to bring. I know that anybody I'm working with in nursing has so much that they're doing day to day to care for our patients, or if they're leaders, to care for our staff and patients, that I want to come through and say, well, how do I help you? And that has really been what has made me passionate about my work. And I think that's what draws people into giving the Project Support Center and me and project management a chance, is I'm trying to tell them, I'm here for you. So let's go do this together.
Yeah, for sure. And when I think process improvement, I think everyone's like, process improvement. I don't want to talk to that person. But you're totally flipping that on its head. And it's really, well, I feel it. We've talked to you for 30 minutes, and I can tell that, I would be running to Amy's project support center, to find that assist, to find that trusted, helpful, heartfelt person who's going to just be passionate about the thing that I'm trying to accomplish because she sees the vision in the work. I mean, that's how you do process improvement in my mind. That's amazing. It's amazing what you've accomplished at City of Hope. We're so glad to have you join us on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Wear Your Cape to Work podcast, hosted by Project Insight. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, or leave us a comment. If you subscribe to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or other favorite podcast channels, you'll receive notifications of all of our new episodes. We'd also love it if you would share Wear Your Cape to Work with your network of PMPs or anyone else who might enjoy the show. Project Insight is an online project and portfolio management software that helps companies connect project data from across all of their teams and software tools so that they can make confident decisions about their business. Our website is projectinsight.com, and there you can find many resources for project professionals, including free PDU webinars, as well as a place to register for a demonstration or a consultation with one of our success teams. Thank you once again for joining today's conversation, and most importantly, thanks for wearing your cape to work.